God bless you. God bless you. This is Pastor Stephen J. Coleman of FaithWorks Church, located in Apopka, Florida, 2400 Rock Spring Road at Rock Spring Elementary School, every Sunday at 10:15 a.m. I'm looking to see your face there this Sunday. And yes, we are driving with the Word. And today's word is coming from Matthew chapter 14 and Mark chapter 6. It's a very familiar story. I guess if I would use the title, Unconventional means. Getting to some place via unconventional means. Now, you guys can't see it, but maybe you'll see it once I pass by it on my right. There's a lake over there. And the story in Matthew 6 and 14, Matthew chapter 6 and Matthew chapter 14 and Mark chapter 6, it deals with Jesus walking on the water. Jesus and Peter walking on the water. So in Matthew 14, it says that Jesus immediately tells his disciples to get into the boat. He gives them instructions to go to the other side. He gives them a conventional way of getting to the other side, and that is by boat. He goes back and he sends the crowd away, and it says he goes up into a mountain to pray. And the Bible says as he came down from the mountain to pray, he was on the beach. And as he was on the beach, he looked out and he saw the disciples in the middle of the lake, and they were struggling. So while the disciples were trying to go to the other side, a storm popped up and it was preventing. So as they struggled and tried to row, the wind would blow them back. And basically, it was keeping them in a particular position. They were moving, but they were going nowhere. They were moving, but they were not going anywhere. So Jesus decides to walk out on the water. I find this very hot. It's cool that Jesus did that. Okay, so he's sitting there. Just imagine Jesus looking out there. Okay, in the middle of the lake. And he's walking on water. He's walking on water, y'all. And when you switch over to Mark chapter 6, Mark says Jesus intended on passing them, but they cried out because they were scared. Well, hold up. Why was Jesus going to pass them? Well, he had already given the directive to go to the other side. What we're finding here is there was a teachable moment that was happening, that he sent them to the other side by conventional means. But an unexpected storm came up, and they were stuck in the same place, moving but going nowhere. If you find yourself in a situation where you're moving but you're not going anywhere, and I kind of like to relate this to, if you look at a lot of the cartoons that come on TV, you see the person or the cartoon character, and he's running or he's walking or he's driving, and you see that it looks like he's moving because the background is just moving. The background is moving, but he's not really going anywhere. All you see is those same palm trees, and I don't know if y'all can see the palm trees over here or whatever, but it's kind of like that. They were moving but not going anywhere. So Jesus says to his disciples, don't be afraid, it's just me. Peter speaks up and says, Jesus, if it's you, tell me to come out there. King James says, bid me to come. And Jesus says one word, come. And here's I find it even more exciting than Jesus walking on water. Peter starts to walk on water. He's walking on water. And the Word of God says that when he saw the wind, and obviously the wind is blowing because the storm is still going on, that he's beginning to sink, and Jesus stretched forth his hand and grabbed him. A lot of people read this story and they say, well, he was on his way to Jesus and he got scared. He saw the wind on the way. Well, I have to contradict that very those statements of that. One, because where in the Bible did you say this? Where in the Bible does it say the storm stopped? they were still in the storm. They just took their focus off the storm because they saw Jesus walking on the water. The storm is still going on. Jesus and Peter are now having a conversation, and he was like, oh man, Jesus is out there walking on water. If that's you, Lord, tell me to come too. Notice Peter's word. Tell me to come, because there's power in Jesus' name that, hey, if you say I can do something, guess what? I can do it. Peter says, tell me to come. Jesus says, come. He steps out on the water. Again, the storm is still going on. I don't see where it says in the Bible that the storm stopped. I'm surmising that Peter got to Jesus because it says that when he began to sink, Jesus simply stretched out his hand and grabbed him. So if I would surmise that he made it to Jesus. But here's the deal. What was going on? Jesus is not saying anything. Peter's not saying anything until he starts to sink. Here's the deal. The disciples ran into a storm. The commandment was to go to the other side. The commandment was for them to go to the other side. They ran into a storm that had them going nowhere. They see Jesus walking on water. Jesus is walking on water. Peter says, let me come. Peter gets out of the boat and he's walking on water too. We are not designed to walk on water. But Peter, at the directive of Jesus, is now walking on water. Here's the problem. Peter never encouraged James, John, Matthew, Bartholomew, Judas. Never encouraged the other disciples to get out of the boat too. Peter is standing there next to Jesus. Jesus ain't saying a word. And the reason why Jesus is not saying a word is because he's hoping that Peter would say, hey, come on, boys, the water's fine. It's all good. We're standing on a firm foundation. Peter did not do this. So Jesus is not saying anything. Think about this. When Peter fell after he denied Christ, and he says, well, before he denied Christ, he said, Satan desires to have you and sift you as wheat. But I prayed for you that your faith fail you not. And when you are restored, strengthen your brothers. Encourage your brothers when you are restored. Because there was something in Peter that he was a natural born leader, that he can get people to do stuff. Peter never once encouraged his brothers. Come on, boys, let's get in this water. So therefore, he's looking for acceptance. He's looking for acknowledgement that, hey, Jesus, look at what I did. And Jesus never said anything. So therefore, Peter lost his focus and he starts to pay attention to the storm. And once he starts paying attention to the storm, that is where he begins to sink. That is where he begins to sink, when he takes his focus off of Jesus and put it on the storm. So what's the teachable moment here? The teachable moment was Jesus said, go to the... As a matter of fact, let me go back. What did Jesus say to Peter after he picked him up, after he stopped him from sinking? He said, O ye of little faith, why did you doubt? Why did you doubt? You were there, man. You literally crossed over to the other side of my anointing, the other side of faith. You did something. And when Jesus gave them the directive to go to the other side, I pushed you out in the boat. But once you went into that, once you came up against that roadblock in the storm, I was hoping that you were going to step out of faith, step into faith by unconventional means. That's why I was walking to the other side, hoping that you're going to catch on to what I'm doing and step out and walk to the other side. That is why the storm was, no matter how much you struggled, no matter how much you rolled, no matter how much you pressed to go forward, you were moving but going nowhere. The objectivity of Jesus allowing that storm to come was for the disciples to step out of their conventional thinking of rowing to the other side. side, to think outside of the box, that say, if we can't row, but we can step out and walk. This is something that is designed for me not to walk in, but designed for me to walk on top of. He says, I give you power to tread on scorpions. So therefore, the thing that I'm not designed to walk on, guess what? By faith, I can walk on the water. Peter stepped out on faith at the directive of Jesus and began to walk on water. Therefore, if you find yourself in a situation where God has called you to go to the other side, but yet immediately there a storm arose and you're pushing, but you feel like you're moving but not going anywhere. Guess what? It's time for you to literally step out the boat and go to the other side. What was supposed to have happened was, as while Jesus was walking, Peter was supposed to encourage the other disciples, let's get out. And we are literally going to go to the other side. It may be the other side of Bethsaida where they was going, but guess what? The other side was another level of faith of where they were supposed to go by stepping out of the boat. They were going to literally walk into a different dimension, supposed to walk into a different dimension by stepping out of the boat. This is why when Jesus and Peter got back into the boat, the storm ceased. Why? Because the test was over. They failed it. Remember when they were crossing the lake the other time and they woke Jesus up and he rebuked it. He rebuked the storm. This time he said not a word. He got back in the boat and the storm was over, because the test the storm that he allowed, let's say that the storm that he allowed to push and press to get that thing that's within us, that's birthed in us, to come forth, it didn't happen. So what's the other teachable moment? The other teachable moment is beware of pride. Peter stepped out on water, but he didn't encourage his brothers. If I'm doing something and what I'm doing makes me $1 million, you best believe I'm telling everyone else, because I want everyone else to share in the wealth, not just keep it to myself. Peter, for that moment, stepped on over to the other side. He stepped out of conventional thinking into unconventional thinking. The thing that I'm not designed to do, he was able to do. That's why Jesus said, greater works than me shall you do, because I go to the Father. But in order to do the greater works, we have to step out of conventional thinking into unconventional means. Step out of the boat, beloved. I'm sorry that this is 12 minutes, but I ain't really sorry, because I'm encouraged by this. I feel pumped up by this. So this is Pastor Stephen J. of FaithWorks Church, located in Apopka, Florida, at 2400 Rock Spring Road at Rock Springs Elementary School. Just look for us and meet us at service on this Sunday at 10:15 a.m. We will be looking for you to get there. You have a blessed day. I will look to see you. Hey, unconventional means. Think about that. He sent them there through a boat, because that's how you're supposed to get over water, with a boat. But guess what? He allowed the storm to get there to hopefully that they would say, well, since we can't move, since the boat that I'm in isn't going anywhere, let me step out under unconventional means and walk, because I've used the very thing. I've used the boat, but now I'm stepping out and I'm walking on using my foot. So, beloved, be blessed today. Be blessed. I look for you Sunday. I'm excited about His word. I may just preach this on Sunday, even though I technically preached it this past Sunday, but I didn't go into depth like I did now. So, beloved, be blessed. I look to see you.